My people, my people, my people. Thanks for tapping back in. 100 years of wealth to you and yours. I hope everything is going great. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Look, so in the NBA currently, you have two people that to me stand out as the certified legends in the game that are still currently playing. Obviously, you got players coming up all across the board that are definitely on their way to straight up legend status, potentially GOAT status in their own right. But the current people, the current players that are true certified legends that are at the top two spots can't even, there's no question. There's no question at all. LeBron James, Steph Curry, right? So anyone that wants to argue that, go ahead, start your argument right now in the comments. Let me know what you think. Who would you put above them? I'm not talking about just like in the last couple of years. I'm talking about the current players that are playing. Who's racked up the most accolades, most championships? We know who it is, right? There's others that are making their way. Give them a few years, but these ones, right? So I've always, in my mind, thought that everyone just gives LeBron he's the GOAT title, and they really don't talk about Steph Curry so much. And sometimes I'm a little confused as to why, but I get it. But I would think, or I would say that the argument is much closer than a lot of people even talk about. And I would even, nudge it in one person's direction versus the other. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a quick overview of their career stats, and then we're going to ask 5 questions. 5 questions that I think, depending on how you answer this, will give you the answer to who is the better player. This isn't tongue in cheek. This isn't to be silly. I definitively think that the answers to these questions give you a clear answer to who's the actual better player. Who's the GOAT of these two? Okay, look, so let's start with Steph Curry first. Came into the league 2009, career average of 24.7 points, career average of 47% shooting from the field, 42% shooting from the three-point line, 91.1% free throw shooting percentage. Murder. And he has 4 championships, and he's been with one team the entirety of his career. Then we got the kid from Akron, LeBron James, the great, the legend. Came into the league 2003, 27 points per game career average, 50.6% field goal shooting percentage career average, 34.9% three-point shooting percent average for his career, 73% free throw shooting for his career, 4 championships with 3 teams. Stellar numbers for both guys, right? Stellar numbers, right? These guys are both legends. Let's give them a round of applause, right? Like they've given us, both of these guys have given us endless entertainment, endless like legendary moments. It's been great watching them play. So the question is, who's better, right? Like we know that a lot of it's going to come down, people's opinion, depending on how technical they want to get. Are you more of an emotion person where you're going to be, focused on who you like? Are you really going to answer the questions authentically? Let's dive in. So we have 5 questions that I think really kind of, speak to who the better player is, depending on who you answer these questions with, right? So let's start off with this first question. Simple question to my people out there. Who would you want to take the last shot of a close game? Steph Curry or LeBron James? Look, I'm not asking loaded questions. These are just simple questions. The sport is basketball. Last minute shots happen. Who do you want to take the shot? I'm going to go with Steph Curry. Simple reason why: he's proven. We know him as the best shooter in NBA history. Um, we've seen him time and time again, waning moments of close games, hit deep 3-pointers, contested 3-pointers, the Olympics, NBA finals, NBA playoffs, regular season. It doesn't matter. He's been doing it. And he's been doing it for a long time. I can definitely admit that LeBron James has gotten better with his shot in the later years of his career. I feel like over the last few years, I've watched his 3-point shot get better. The percentage has gotten higher, but I still would have to 150% choose Steph Curry to take the last shot. Anyone that's not choosing Steph Curry, you're one of those LeBron stands. I'm sorry. If you're not choosing Steph Curry to take the last shot, you're tripping. All right. But look, that's your opinion. Leave your comment in the or leave your statement in the comments. Tell me why. If you really feel like you would choose LeBron over Steph for the last shot, tell me why. Tell me why. Make it make sense for me. Okay, look. Now they are in the later years of their career. LeBron's probably close to retirement, maybe one more year. Steph Curry's probably got a couple more years in him. We can almost look back at their career in hindsight and kind of give it a real grade from different perspectives. Fan, organization, you can try to look from a player's perspective if you want. But I would say for this question, who is more likely to be loyal to an organization and better for an organization? Look, that's a tougher question to answer, but I think it's probably a simple answer with some caveats, right? LeBron James has clearly been a plus for any organization he's been with, whether it's ticket sales, whether it's championships, whether it's success in the regular season, playoff, etc. Right? He's been a great thing for that organization. Steph Curry has been an even better thing for his organization, right? He's been there from the start. That's simple. It is what it is, right? Like, you tell me what you would think, or what your answer is to that question. Who has been better for your organization? Who's been more healthy for the organization? Who's been more loyal to the organization? From a fan perspective, you got to choose Steph Curry. You got it. He's been with the same team, will likely retire with that team, still on the hunt for a ring for that team, right? So he's kept, if you look at it from that fan's perspective, since he's been there, and I think Golden State has had a strong organization. They've had star players in the past. They had, different players that made the game entertaining, even if they weren't in championship contention, right? You had Monte Ellis, you had Richardson, Jason Richardson, you had or Quentin Richardson, you had, I think it was Jason Richardson as well. You had a lot of players, Chris Mullin in the past, Tim Hardaway, had a lot of players come through Golden State and made it entertaining to watch, right? But when you think about like getting into consistent playoff contention, that's just really fun for your city, right? Like, you really bring a lot of energy into your city. Wherever your city's arena is located, you're going to see the local businesses benefit from that. And being in LA, I'm in Los Angeles. When we're in playoff contention, it's just fun. A lot of gatherings are happening. People are meeting up to watch the game. It extends the season for an extra month for us, depending on how far the team goes, or a month and a half, 2 months. So I would say that matters, right? Obviously, there could be reasons why someone might leave an organization. Those reasons could be legitimate. But I would say that you would have to expect that the other player that stayed with the organization probably had similar things come up. You would have to assume that in that 16-year run that Curry's been in Golden State, they've had complications. They've had issues with talent. They've had issues with management. They've had changes of management that weren't perfect. They've had frustrations. I would assume. So my point is that if that player is actually able to stick through that and be kind of like a rock that you could count on, as opposed to that player being more likely to leave. And I would say if LeBron had just like left once and then, stayed at that team, then you can't really hold that against him. But he's not only left once, he's left, he left Cleveland, that's one, left Miami, that's two, left Cleveland again, that's three, and now he's in LA. So he's left organizations four times, right? He left Cleveland one time, he left Miami once, no, three times, right? He left organizations three times. I'm not trying to demonize him. I don't think he's a bad person for that. I think it's just a different perspective and probably more loyalty to what you want as an individual player compared to being more flexible for the team's benefit, right? And once again, challenge me in the comments, tell me where I'm wrong on that, but I would say the answer to that question is Steph Curry. Okay, who did more with less, right? So who had more success on the court with less talent, with less assistance? That's a tough question. I would say that's probably one of the questions out of the five questions that I have for you guys that'll be a little bit harder or a little bit more, could go either way. And the only reason why I say that, for me, it would have been a definitive answer in the favor of Steph Curry if Kevin Durant hadn't come over for two championships, right? Even though I think Steph Curry during those two championships was still the defining factor, I think Kevin Durant was able to shine because he had someone that could be the vocal team kind of like leader, while Kevin Durant could just be that really good player that he is. But I would say that by himself, without a Kevin Durant, Steph Curry was able to get it done two times, right? Kevin Durant, without a Steph Curry, yet to get it done. And seemingly without the perfect scenario, without the top-notch talent like a Steph Curry, struggles and usually has teams that end up underperforming. So it's hard for me to really hit Steph Curry with like a ding on his legacy because of those 2 years with Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant came there. And, Steph Curry seemed like the type that was like, let's take on all challenges no matter who it is, and I don't really need anything extra. He had his team that he started with. They didn't really add much in the way of like big name players. They added role players. They they had Klay Thompson, they had Iguodala, they had Dave West back in the days, David Lee, Chris Livingston. They had a lot of players that were very, very good, but they were role players, and you just had two deadly shooters, but one was the reason for the season, right? So if you're asking that question, who did more with less? Steph Curry, he's looking like the one. On the other side, you got LeBron James that won 2 rings with Dwayne Wade, Ray Allen, Chris Bosh. Won a 3rd ring with Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving. Won a 4th ring with Anthony Davis. And, really good role players that were on the Lakers at that time. So to answer that question, once again, I'm gonna leave that one up to you guys. You give your answer in the comments. Who did more with less? That's a real tough one for me. I think that the only reason why it's tough is only because of those 2 years with that Steph Curry had Kevin Durant. It's almost neutral on that one, right? So I'm gonna leave that one as a toss-up. You guys let me know what you think. This next question: who is the more skilled basketball player? Who's the more skilled basketball player, right? I am going to have to say, I think you already know my answer. Steph Curry, right? Because when you think of skills in basketball, you think of skills, right? Like you don't think of your height, your size, your speed are not a skill. It's more so how you use those things per se. But a skill set would be like dribbling, shooting, your free throws, your passing. I don't know, people will try to throw in like basketball IQ, your defensive ability, etc. I would have to say the more skilled player out of those two players is clearly Stephen Curry. You don't see what you see in Steph Curry's bag and LeBron James's bag, right? LeBron James is clearly a skilled NBA player. There's no taking that away from him. This is not me trying to say that he's not skilled. He's just not as skilled as a Steph Curry. Once again, you are going to, look at Steph Curry as a better shooter, a better dribbler, and better free throw shooter. Um, those what else are we going to talk about? Defense, I would say both of them comparable defensive players. Pretty, they can both be pretty locked down when they want. I feel like in a different time, if you had larger guards playing, you could have more guards that can take advantage of Steph Curry's size. But Steph Curry's pretty strong. At a what is he, like 6'3", and he's pretty good at creating like a shield in front of offensive players to where he can be very effective on defense. I feel like LeBron James could be just as effective, if not more effective, on defense at times when he's really locked in. You're definitely not going to get any chase down blocks from Steph Curry, but you will have consistent on ball defense from Steph Curry and help defense. You see him running around a lot more on the defensive end than you see LeBron James. So the defense, I would say for them, both of them, you're not really looking to them as like, I would say they're both solid defensive players, but you're not really looking to them as like, all right, these are like lockdown defensive players. That's not their strong point. Hence, I don't think either one of them has a Defensive Player of the Year award. I don't know if they're first team all defense. You'd have to check into that, but that's not really what we're looking at them for per se. So to answer that question, you really have to look at the offensive side, right? When you're answering the question of who has the better skill set, who's the more skilled player. Free throw percentage, Steph Curry is nearly 20% better at free throws, right? This is standing there shooting all by yourself, right? Right? Like you're shooting there all by yourself. LeBron James has been doing this in the league for 22 years. You should shoot better than 73%. 73% is kind of like getting a C in school, a C grade, compared to 91%, which is getting an A, right? So anyone that can argue that, he's clearly a better free throw shooter. The field goal percentage, 47% for Steph Curry compared to 50% for LeBron James. 50% is obviously strong. And that 3% does matter. But the difference is that Steph Curry, a lot of his shots are jump shots. A lot of his shots are 3-point shots. So you're expected to have a slightly, lower percentage if you're shooting more jump shots and more free throws. So that one right there, it's kind of a wash. But I would just say when it comes down to it, who has the better shot? And when you're looking at the 3-point percentage, higher 3-point percentage for Steph Curry by nearly 8%, 42% versus 34%. And then you have the free throw percentage, right? So if you look at free throws, if you look at the ability to shoot the three ball, and if you look at jump shots, you're going to definitely think that Steph Curry, or know that Steph Curry has a higher skill set when it comes to shooting. When it comes to dribbling, I'm going to say that Steph Curry has a better dribble, better handle than LeBron James. When it comes to passing, I am going to give that to LeBron James. LeBron James is known as a better passer. In my mind, watching LeBron James versus Steph Curry, LeBron James clearly edges out Steph Curry with the passing because he just has way better court vision. You just see way more dynamic passes, even though Steph Curry is legit with the passing. I don't think he is, like he's not like a player that doesn't have assists or that doesn't get a lot of assists. I just don't think that that's like his main thing. You're going to see LeBron James definitely have a higher average assist count. But if I'm wrong, I'll post it. But I'm pretty certain that LeBron James has a higher average assist count than Steph Curry. And then in my mind, just a better court vision than Steph Curry. So passing, I'm going to give to LeBron James. As far as what you might call basketball IQ, if you want to put that as a skill set, I'm going to call that one a tie, right? Um, and the reason why I'll call it a tie between on that question is just because it's like that's like subjective. That's going to be really kind of like your opinion based because the results have equaled 4 championships for each of them. But Steph Curry's gotten his in 6 less seasons, which is significant. But let's just say this: we'll leave that question to be answered by the subscribers. So everybody, please let me know what you guys think. Who is the more who has the higher basketball IQ between those two players? Okay, so to answer the question, who is the more skilled player? I'm going to go with Steph Curry because out of those 4 topics we brought up, offense, defense, uh, um, IQ, and passing, I'm going to give Steph Curry a definitive 2, while the other categories are ties. You let me know what you guys think. Okay. All right. So look, the last question. Who has the highest chance to get another ring before they retire? It's tough right now. The Lakers are in a higher seed than the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference. But if you're tapping in with me today, which is Monday, April 21st, I think the Lakers play tonight, but they're down 0-1 to the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? While the Golden State Warriors are up 1-0 against the Houston Rockets when the Golden State Warriors are actually the lower seed and they were on the road. Lakers lost their opening playoff game at home. So that really I didn't really take that into consideration when answering that question, who has the best chance or the highest chance to get another championship ring before retirement. But I would say that, and my answer to that question was still Steph Curry. I feel like the chances for Steph Curry, right now, who knows what's going to happen in these playoffs, right? But I would say going forward, I think Steph Curry still has at least 2 to 3 strong years left as a top player in the league. And, with the organization that he's with, I think that they can put themselves in a position to get a ring, especially with the recent trade to add Jimmy Butler, who's put the team back into the playoffs and has them moving forward, looking like they may take out the Houston Rockets. So point being is I think that if they keep Jimmy Butler and they keep the core that they have right now, they're going to stay in contention the next couple of years. LeBron James and the Lakers, similar situation. I just don't think LeBron James has much time left or as much time left as Steph Curry. So if the Lakers don't get it this year, I don't really see LeBron James being as strong next year if he does play. And I think past that, it's really hard to see him playing. So who has the highest chance to get another ring? I'm going to go with Steph Curry. You let me know what you guys think in the comments, right? So those are the 5 questions that I got for you guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I appreciate you guys stopping by. The last thing that I will say to answer this question, who's the GOAT between these 2 players? Who's the actual better player? I'm going to say that you have to consider the downside of each player, right? And the things that you might consider a negative in that answer to the question. So one thing that I always thought with Steph Curry was that it was hard for him to be my GOAT when I would put the GOAT, put people in that conversation like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, people that had to me the full package. And the full package included dunks, right? Like, in my eyes, how could you be the GOAT of this when you don't really got a dunk package, when you're not really a high flyer? But I had to really adjust that because of the amount of success that Steph Curry has had and the fact that he's kind of neutralized that topic to where his dunk is the 3-pointer. And he does it at such a stylish, elevated level it does give you the same type of rush as the dunk. It does get you off your seat and as excited. Maybe not the same, to each his own, of course, but for me, I think Steph Curry has made it to where I can't really hold not dunking much against him anymore, right? So that was the one negative that I thought about his offensive game. I'm like, you're never going to really see him dunk. So if you like dunks, he ain't gonna give it to you, right? He might get one on a fast break. You know, he might get one of those little Chris Paul get off the ground, barely dunks. But generally speaking, you're not looking for Steph Curry to dunk. You're gonna see more of that front. You're gonna see more dunks from a small guy like Kyrie Irving. And I say small, NBA status small. He's probably like 6'2" or 6'3". But other negatives that you can consider with Steph Curry, maybe he's undersized compared to a Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, obviously LeBron James. And I think that obviously hasn't hurt him on offense because there's been no one to be able to really hold him down. He moves so efficiently without the ball, and with the ball, his dribbles and his handle are so strong that his size has not been held back by it. But what I will say is that shows up more so on the defensive end, right? If you have a player that knows how to take advantage of a smaller player, then Steph Curry will. You'll see Steph Curry having to switch off a player that knows how to take advantage of his size, right? So I would say those are the negatives that you can attach to him, but you can't really attach much else negative to Steph Curry about his career, right? Similar to LeBron James, he has an overall strong skill set. You could say that, like in late game moments, LeBron James has been known to defer, right? Like you think of the GOAT and the top player as the person that you go to in the closing moments. They put everything on their back and all responsibility is on them, and it is what it is, right? LeBron James, I've watched him throughout his career, especially in the last 7 years that he's been with the Los Angeles Lakers. He definitely will defer in those closing moments to what I would consider lesser caliber players. And in his mind, it would be making the correct basketball play, right? While I think a lot of the GOATs, a lot of the Steph Curry's, Michael Jordan's, Kobe Bryant's are going to say, hey, look, it's going to be all on my back, right? Like whether this shot is tough or not, I'm not going to throw it to this third tier player on my team that's really a role player and hope that they make the final shot when the game's on the line. I'm going to take it on my back and I'm going to, more times than not, make that shot. So I would say a negative that LeBron has been attached to is deferring in those closing moments or sometimes not coming through in those closing moments. Not coming through in big games, right? And in the is it 2011 finals when he played against the Dallas Mavericks, you had lesser players on the opposite team have bigger moments and better numbers in the NBA finals against LeBron James, right? Where his numbers had like deflated and he seemingly, I don't want to say gave up, but seemingly didn't deliver up to expectations, right? So you don't really have that knock against Steph Curry, right? So I ask the question sometimes, like, how could that be your GOAT if that's on their resume, if that's on their record? When it's not on the record of these other GOATs. I could see it if it was on everyone's record, it just is what it is. You have to consider that against everyone. But when it's not, you do have to kind of take that, put that mark against that player. The other thing with LeBron James is that he does have something negative, a negative stigma that he's known for, and that is flopping, right? There's numerous videos out there where you see LeBron James taking light contact and doing what seems to be like over exaggerated reactions, maybe to sell the foul, maybe because he felt pain. I don't know. But that is, that's not my opinion, right? Or maybe it is, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that that's what is attached to his name, right? You can argue that in the comments or not. Tell me if is that true, right? Is that something that is attached to LeBron James' name, right? Like he is attached to the title of flopping. We don't have that with Kobe. We don't have that with Michael Jordan. We don't have that with Steph Curry. Whether wrong or right, we can argue that in a different video, but I would say that that is a negative attached to LeBron James. So I would just say when you think of these different questions that you're asking yourself, outside of emotion, outside of the feeling, outside of LeBron's my king, when you ask these questions, just like without any bias, to me, it's a pretty simple answer. I think that definitively Stephen Curry is the better basketball player than LeBron James. So I'm going to put Steph Curry as the GOAT. You let me know what you think. Thank you guys for sticking through to the end of the video. 100 years of wealth. Hope all is well with you guys. Have a great day. Check back soon. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.